Remember how One Day at a Time showed us strength, family, and second chances? It made us laugh and believe in hope. But behind the studio lights, their real lives didn't follow a sitcom ending. Some faced illness, some faced tragedy, and some disappeared from the spotlight. Now, in 2026, we uncover what really happened after the cameras stopped rolling. Bonnie Franklin as Anne Romano. Anne Romano emerges as a widowed mother determined to raise her daughters alone while redefining independence and emotional strength on American television in the 1970s. Born on January 6, 1944, Bonnie Franklin was 31 years old when she began portraying the role in 1975, which ultimately became the defining performance of her career. Sadly, she passed away on March 1, 2013 at the age of 69 in Encino, California, after being diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. Her emotional stability had already been deeply affected years earlier by the death of her husband Marvin Minoff in 2009, which left her in a prolonged period of grief and withdrawal. Professionally, she earned Emmy and Golden Globe nominations for One Day at a Time, where her performance reshaped how television portrayed divorced mothers and working-class family life. She also built a respected stage career, highlighted by her Tony-nominated role in Applause, alongside continued theater and television work throughout her later years. Anne Romano remains her most iconic role, but Bonnie Franklin is remembered as an actress whose work permanently shifted how motherhood and independence were represented on screen. Valerie Bertinelli as Barbara Cooper. Barbara Cooper enters television as the warm, expressive teenage daughter navigating life in a single-parent home, a role that quickly became a defining portrait of 1970s family sitcom storytelling. Born on April 23, 1960, Valerie Bertinelli was only 15 when she stepped into the role in 1975, and it instantly turned her into a household name with back-to-back Golden Globe wins. In 2026, she is 66 years old, living a quieter life focused on writing, wellness, and creative work in food media. Her long marriage to Eddie Van Halen brought both deep connection and emotional strain, marked by addiction and separation before his death in 2020, a loss that deeply affected her personal recovery. As she tried rebuilding stability, another painful chapter followed with her 2022 divorce from Tom Vitale, a public and emotionally draining separation that forced her into a long period of reflection. That experience led her towards self-reinvention through writing, including Enough Already, where she openly addressed body image struggles and emotional wounds. Barbara Cooper remains her breakthrough role, but Valerie Bertinelli's life evolved into a continuous process of healing, reinvention, and self-acceptance. Pat Harrington Jr. as Dwayne F. Schneider. Dwayne F. Schneider is the sarcastic yet oddly dependable building superintendent whose constant excuses and fast-talking humor make him one of the most memorable comic figures in the series. Born on January 13, 1929, Pat Harrington Jr. was 46 years old when he began playing the role in 1975. Sadly, he passed away on January 6, 2016, at the age of 86 in Los Angeles, due to complications from Alzheimer's disease, with his condition worsening significantly after a serious fall in 2015 that caused a brain hemorrhage. In his final period, he was under full-time medical care, supported closely by his wife Sally Cleaver, whom he married in 2001, and who remained by his side throughout his illness. Beyond the role of Schneider, his earlier career included steady work in television variety shows and animation voice acting, most notably in The Bullwinkle Show, where he became a familiar comedic voice long before his sitcom success. His performance in One Day at a Time later earned him an Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, marking the peak of his recognition in Hollywood. That success period also led him into frequent guest appearances on American television throughout the 1980s, where he became known for his sharp timing and character versatility. Schneider remains his most iconic role, But Pat Harrington Jr. is remembered as a performer whose career successfully bridged classic voice comedy and mainstream sitcom success. Nanette Fabray as Grandma Catherine Romano. Grandma Catherine Romano is the wise, strong-willed family matriarch whose presence brings emotional balance, humor, and authority to the Romano household across generations. Born on October 27, 1920, Nanette Fabray was 59 years old when she began the role in 1979. The character marked one of her later television appearances, reinforcing her reputation as a performer who could balance comedy, emotion, and grounded maternal strength. Sadly, she passed away on February 22, 2018 at the age of 97 in Palos Verdes, California, from natural causes related to advanced age. In her final years, she lived in a specialized retirement residence for performers, receiving continuous care as her hearing and vision deteriorated significantly. She had been married to producer Ranald McDougall until his death in 1973, after which she chose to remain single and dedicate herself to family and advocacy work. The transition into her final decades was shaped not only by retirement, but by her lifelong battle with hearing loss, which began early in life and eventually led her to become an outspoken advocate for accessibility and disability rights. Her career had already reached its highest recognition, with multiple Emmy Awards and a Tony Award, reflecting her impact across both television and stage performance. Catherine Romano remains one of her later television roles, but Nanette Fabray is remembered as a pioneering entertainer. Shelley Fabares as Francine Webster. Francine Webster is introduced as a sharp, ambitious working woman whose rivalry with Anne Romano reflects the evolving role of women in the workplace. Born on January 19, 1944, Shelley Fabares was 34 years old when she took on the role in 1978, having already built a career as both a teen idol and respected television actress. In 2026, she is 82 years old and living a quiet, fully retired life in Los Angeles with her husband Mike Farrell, whom she married in 1984. She has withdrawn completely from acting due to long-term health concerns, choosing instead to focus on stability, recovery, and personal well-being. Her later years are defined less by screen appearances and more by maintaining a peaceful, health-focused lifestyle. That withdrawal from Hollywood was heavily influenced by a life-threatening medical crisis in the late 1990s, when she developed severe liver failure caused by an autoimmune disorder. In 2000, she underwent a successful liver transplant after a prolonged wait that placed her condition at critical risk, with her survival dependent on immediate medical intervention. Her recovery marked a turning point, and since then she has remained an advocate for organ donation and transplant awareness. Later, she achieved major success as a teen music star with the hit song Johnny Angel, and later gained renewed popularity through the sitcom Coach. Mackenzie Phillips as Julie Cooper. Julie Cooper is the emotionally unstable yet deeply human daughter whose rebellious nature and inner struggles add a darker, more complicated emotional layer to the family dynamic. Born on November 10, 1959, Mackenzie Phillips was just 16 years old when she took on the role in 1975. The character became both a breakthrough and a burden in her career, cementing her early fame while also tying her public image to a turbulent on-screen persona. In 2026, she is 67 years old and living in California, where she has stepped away from acting and now works primarily as an addiction recovery counselor. After decades of instability caused by early trauma and substance abuse, she has built a quieter, more grounded life focused on helping others in rehabilitation programs. That transformation into recovery work came after a long personal journey that reached a turning point in 2009 when she published her memoir, High on Arrival, openly detailing her childhood trauma and addiction struggles, a disclosure that brought both controversy and public support. Earlier in her career, she also gained attention through her role in American Graffiti, which helped establish her as a young rising actress before personal issues disrupted her career trajectory. In later years, She appeared sporadically in television projects such as So Weird, but gradually shifted away from acting entirely. Julie Cooper remains her most recognized role, but Mackenzie Phillips is now more widely associated with her work in addiction recovery and her public testimony of survival and rebuilding. Richard Masur as David Kane. David Kane is the kind, grounded boyfriend whose calm presence brings emotional stability to Anne Romano's life, standing as one of the few genuinely supportive male figures in her complex personal journey. Born on November 20th, 1948, Richard Masur was 27 years old when he began the role in 1975. The character helped expand his early visibility on television and strengthened his reputation as a dependable character actor in American drama and sitcom storytelling. In 2026, he is 78 years old and living in New York with his wife Eileen Henry, whom he married in 2004. While he still remains mentally active in the industry, he has gradually stepped back from acting due to age-related reduction in opportunities and occasional frustration with the industry's changing landscape. Even so, he continues to stay involved in union-related work and advocacy for actors' rights, particularly focusing on the challenges posed by AI and digital replication in film production. That shift toward activism came after decades of steady work in Hollywood, where he became one of the most recognizable character actors of his generation, appearing in films such as The Thing, 1982, Risky Business, 1983, and My Girl, 1991. He also served 2 terms as president of the Screen Actors Guild, a role that strengthened his influence behind the scenes as well as on screen. David Kane remains one of his quieter television roles, but Richard Masur is ultimately remembered as both a dependable actor and a longtime advocate for performers' rights within the industry. Ron Rifkin as Nick Handress. Nick Handress is a deeply emotional and vulnerable husband figure whose tragic arc adds a darker psychological weight to the series, reflecting loss, instability, and quiet emotional collapse within personal relationships. Born on October 31, 1939, Ron Rifkin was 41 years old when he took on the role in 1980. The role contributed to his growing reputation as a serious character actor, capable of portraying layered emotional conflict in both television and stage productions. In 2026, he is 87 years old and living a quiet, private life in Manhattan with his wife Iva Rifkin, whom he has been married to since 1966. Due to advancing age and declining mobility, he has withdrawn completely from public acting life, choosing instead to remain at home and focus on personal well-being and companionship with his wife. His daily life is now centered on privacy, rest, and limited contact with the outside industry. That retreat into seclusion followed a long and distinguished career across stage and television, where he earned a Tony Award for Cabaret and gained widespread recognition for his roles in Alias as Arvin Sloane and Brothers and Sisters as Saul Holden. His transition from theater to screen brought him critical respect across multiple generations of audiences, establishing him as a consistently strong supporting presence in major productions. Nick Handress remains one of his lesser-known television roles, but Ron Rifkin is remembered for a career defined by emotional depth, theatrical excellence, and enduring consistency across decades of performance. Howard Hesseman as Sam Royer. Sam Royer is the calm, yet intellectually grounded husband whose presence brings emotional stability and maturity into Anne Romano's later personal journey. Born on February 27, 1940, Howard Hesseman was 42 years old when he began the role in 1982, already known for his unconventional comedic energy and counterculture screen persona. Tragically, he passed away on January 29, 2022, at the age of 81 in Los Angeles following complications from a severe colorectal surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. His final days were spent in hospital care, with his wife Caroline Ducroc by his side, as post-surgical complications ultimately prevented recovery. That final chapter came after a long and influential career in American television, where he became widely recognized for his role as Johnny Fever in WKRP in Cincinnati, earning 2 Emmy nominations and cementing his place in pop culture history. He also appeared in numerous film and television projects across decades, consistently portraying intelligent, offbeat characters that reflected his unique acting style. Sam Royer remains one of his lesser-known television roles, but Howard Hesseman is remembered as a distinctive cultural figure whose work helped define a generation of American television comedy and character acting. Mary Louise Wilson as Ginny Roblicki. Ginny Roblicki is the eccentric, endlessly talkative neighbor whose comedic unpredictability brings light chaos and unexpected warmth into the everyday world around Ann Romano. Born on November 12, 1931, Mary Louise Wilson was 45 years old when she began the role in 1976. The character added a distinctive comic texture to her career, reinforcing her reputation as a strong theatrical performer with sharp timing and character versatility. In 2026, she is 95 years old and living in a care facility for artists in the outskirts of New York, where she receives full-time medical support due to advanced age and reduced mobility. She never married and spent most of her life dedicated entirely to stage and screen performance, with Broadway remaining the center of her artistic identity. That lifelong commitment to theater was rewarded with major recognition, including a Tony Award for her acclaimed performance in Grey Gardens, 2007, which became one of the defining moments of her later career. Throughout her life, she built a reputation as a fearless stage actress capable of shifting between comedy and drama with ease while maintaining a steady presence in American theater. In her final years, she remains mentally sharp, spending her time reading and writing short memoir reflections, preserving her voice through words even as her physical strength fades. John Putch as Bob Morton. Bob Morton appears as the awkward teenage boyfriend whose clumsy charm and youthful innocence highlight the early romantic and emotional confusion in Barbara Cooper's life. Born on July 27, 1961, John Putch was 15 years old when he took on the role in 1976. The character marked one of his earliest screen appearances and became a stepping stone that quietly introduced him to the entertainment industry before his shift behind the camera. In 2026, he is 65 years old and living in California, where he works primarily as a television director while gradually reducing his workload for health and family reasons. After decades of directing popular sitcoms and TV productions, he now focuses mainly on selective independent projects and occasional creative consulting. That transition into directing defined the real turning point of his career, with credits spanning successful series such as Scrubs, Cougar Town, and American Housewife, where he built a reputation for steady comedic direction and reliable storytelling rhythm. While early acting roles like Bob Morton were brief, they helped shape his understanding of performance before he moved fully behind the camera. Today, Bob Morton remains a minor early role, but John Putch is remembered as a director whose long television career quietly influenced modern American sitcom production. Joseph Campanella as Ed Cooper. Ed Cooper is the emotionally distant former husband whose absence and detachment leave a lasting impact on Ann Romano's personal struggles, representing the breakdown of traditional family expectations within her story. Born on November 21, 1924, Joseph Campanella was 52 years old when he began the role in 1976, already established as a prolific and respected television actor. Sadly, he passed away on May 16, 2018, at the age of 93 in Sherman Oaks, California, due to complications from Parkinson's disease. In his final years, his condition severely limited his mobility, eventually confining him to a wheelchair as he required full-time care at home, supported closely by his wife Jill and their large family of 7 sons. That final chapter followed a career that spanned more than 200 television appearances, including an Emmy-nominated performance in Mannix and a long-running role in The Bold and the Beautiful, which cemented his reputation as one of Hollywood's most dependable character actors. Despite the physical decline in his later years, he remained surrounded by family in a stable home environment where he spent his final years in relative peace. Ed Cooper remains one of his television roles, but Joseph Campanella is ultimately remembered as a steady presence in American television whose long career reflected consistency, professionalism, and endurance across decades of work. John Hillerman as Mr. Connors. Mr. Connors is the strict, no-nonsense office supervisor whose sharp authority and constant scrutiny create tension in Anne Romano's workplace life, representing the pressure and discipline of the professional world she must navigate. Born on December 20th, 1932, John Hillerman was 44 years old when he began the role in 1976. The character came during the period when he was steadily building a reputation as a refined supporting actor in American television. Sadly, he passed away on November 9, 2017, at the age of 84 in Houston, Texas, due to complications from chronic heart disease. In his final years, he lived a quiet, reclusive life in his home state after retiring from acting in 1999, spending most of his time away from Hollywood under the care of close relatives and household staff. That withdrawal followed a career peak defined by his globally recognized role as Jonathan Higgins in Magnum P. Warren, which earned him both an Emmy Award and a Golden Globe, and established him as one of television's most distinguished character actors. Throughout his career, he was known for portraying precise, controlled, and often authoritative figures, both in comedy and drama. Mr. Connors remains one of his supporting television roles, but John Hillerman is remembered as a performer whose legacy was defined by elegance, discipline, and award-winning consistency across decades of television history. Jim Hutton as Dr. Paul Curran. Dr. Paul Curran appears as the calm, professional doctor whose presence brings emotional steadiness and quiet authority into Anne Romano's personal world, reflecting the type of grounded male figure often used to contrast her emotional struggles. Born on May 31, 1934, Jim Hutton was 41 years old when he took on the role in 1975. The character came at a point when his career was still carrying the momentum of steady television and film work, especially after his recognition in Ellery Queen. He passed away on June 2, 1979, at the age of 45 in Los Angeles due to liver cancer, diagnosed only a short time before his death and progressing rapidly. In his final days, his condition deteriorated quickly, leaving little time for treatment or recovery, and he was later cremated with his ashes placed at Westwood Village Memorial Park. That final chapter came after a career that showed constant promise but never fully reached sustained stardom, despite strong critical attention for his screen partnership with Paula Prentice in films such as Where the Boys Are. He also built recognition through television appearances, including The Twilight Zone, and was often described as an actor on the edge of major stardom, who never quite broke through fully. Beyond his career, he was the father of actor Timothy Hutton, continuing his legacy in Hollywood through the next generation. Dr. Paul Curran remains one of his supporting television roles, but Jim Hutton is remembered as a talented actor whose career was marked by early promise, critical respect, and an untimely death that cut his trajectory short. Charles Siebert as Jerry Davenport. Jerry Davenport is the calm, reliable husband whose steady emotional presence helps anchor Anne Romano's evolving personal life, representing maturity and balance. Born on March 9, 1938, Charles Siebert was 38 years old when he took on the role in 1976. The character arrived at a stage in his career where he was already an experienced stage and television actor, gradually transitioning into more prominent screen roles. Tragically, he passed away on May 1, 2022, at the age of 84 in San Francisco due to COVID-19-related pneumonia at UCSF Medical Center. In his later years, he had already stepped back from acting and directing, with declining health limiting his involvement in the television industry he had helped shape for decades. That transition followed a long and highly versatile career spanning both acting and directing, including his most recognized role as Dr. Stanley Riverside II in Trapper John, M.D., which brought him wide television recognition and established him as a steady dramatic performer. He also built a strong directing portfolio after the mid-1980s, working on major television series such as Xena, Warrior Princess, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and The Pretender, where he helped shape the visual and narrative style of episodic TV. Today, Charles Siebert is remembered as a multi-talented television professional whose legacy spans both performance and direction across several decades. Callan as Alice Butterfield. Alice Butterfield is the mother figure in Anne Romano's Orbit, a grounded, supportive parent character who reflects the emotional stability and everyday resilience of working-class family life in the series. Born on January 9, 1936, Callan was 40 years old when she took on the role in 1976. The character arrived at a point when she was already building a strong reputation as a versatile television actress capable of both comedic and dramatic performances. By 2026, she is 90 years old and living a quiet, private life in the United States, largely retired from acting but still connected to the industry through writing and occasional appearances. She continues to focus on literature and acting education, drawing from decades of experience in both stage and screen work. That long creative journey included memorable television appearances across some of America's most iconic series, from All in the Family to Dallas. She also appeared in films such as American Gigolo, 1980, and Knives Out, 2019, showing a rare longevity that stretched across multiple eras of Hollywood. Beyond acting, she built a second career as an author of acting guides and industry books, sharing practical knowledge gained from years in front of the camera. Today, Callan is remembered as a lifelong working actress. So after seeing how the One Day at a Time, 1975, cast have changed over 51 years, did you expect their lives to turn out this different from what we once watched on screen? Which transformation surprised you the most, and which character will always stay in your memory? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more Then vs. Now cast updates and untold Hollywood stories.